ask yourself the damn question. Is winning the only thing to you?
Sports today are not just played on the field. They're played every day, online, all over the world, by sports fans just like you.
Don't you dare breathe. That won't get you anywhere. If you don't think you're a winner, you don't belong here.
Fantasy Sports puts you in control of your own team. The Nick Bonsanto Show is proud to present the Star Fantasy League Show. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, co-hosted by SFL CEO Zach Stanley and SFL COO Seth Young. The Star Fantasy League Show, on the air.
Make this game your finest hour.
Now.
Hello and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show. I am your host, Jonathan Sprung, joined, as always, I can say that now, guys, as always, because we've been doing this for a little while now, as always, by SFL CEO, Zach Stanley. What up, Zach?
It's good to be in here in the Star Fantasy League's office, out of the tundra, with one guy I like, you, John, and Seth.
And I'll say one guy I like, and the other guy joining us, as always, is COO, Mr. Seth Young.
Well, I'm sitting next to the Deuce Moose and the Jonald. What could be better?
Yeah, that's true. That is our first introduction of the Deucey Moose himself, Zach Stanley. How do you feel we got that out in the air?
I think it was time.
We're going to have a sound clip.
I feel like that was my intro.
Okay.
I'm excited.
That's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. Before we get into the actual show today, can we please talk about this whole PAT thing?
You want to get into the meat and bones of the show?
No, we don't get to say it anymore. NFL's gone. It's depressing. I don't say that. No, seriously, does anybody have an opinion on this PAT thing?
I do. I mean, I think it should go. Why? Who cares, really? It's an automatic kick. It never gets blocked. You look at the defense that's playing against the point after. They don't do anything. They stand up.
Well, you know what I have a problem with? This. And I have a problem with it because they just got rid of the kickoff.
Yeah, what are they trying?
The kickoff's pretty much gone. So now there's not going to be a point after.
I hate that.
And you know what? There are ones missed every single year.
This is true.
Every year.
Who missed this year?
They just showed it as they were talking about it. This is one of those things that drives me crazy. Leave the game pure. Like, what are you getting rid of these? Next, we're going to have no field goals, guys. We're going to have absolutely no kickers at all. They're going to kill it. We're talking about this early because guess what? Football's gone. We're done. We're talking about NBA today, and we're talking about accountability in our NFL picks early in the season. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League Show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
Nick Bonsanto is proud to present the Star Fantasy League Show. Feel free to tweet the show at SFL Show. Let's do this. Time for your Star Fantasy League's NBA Fantasy Lineup Breakdown.
We are back, and you guys heard it. We are breaking down our fantasy NBA lineup for tonight. Zach, we got a lineup built, don't we, each of us? And I hate mine, I'll be honest.
I'm definitely going to take you down tonight.
Oh, I
don't see any way around it.
It's not very difficult to beat John.
Coming from the man who is sitting in his chair going, "What's NBA?"
I get to drop some knowledge on Seth right now. It's fantastic.
The funny thing about this is there's nights in fantasy NBA where I absolutely love my lineup. I know I'm going to win, and then there's nights like tonight where I build 15 different versions of my lineup, and I can't get one that feels right. Do you feel like that happens, Zach?
It's like solving a puzzle, and when you run out of time to solve that puzzle, there's nothing more miserable.
I mean, I usually build my lineup on StarFantasyLeagues.com for NBA just by mashing buttons.
Yeah, I feel like that. That's why Seth loves to just be. You're here for color, right? You are the color guy.
I'm the guy that just loses in NBA tournaments. I'm the guy that you want to play against. I say,
can't I
look,
select
NBA.
LeBron again?
Yeah,
I want 3 LeBrons.
I don't think that's possible, but let's get to an actual possibility, Zach. The cool thing about this is we're not just going to list off all the players you have on your team. We're actually going to go through we're going to pick your brain and see how you got to this type of lineup, who you started with, who you were kind of reluctant to put in there, and who you had to have in. So let's start off. Again, for all our listeners out there, 2 guards, 2 forwards, 2 centers, 2 utility spots. You have a $100,000 salary cap. You put them all in. You just got to stay under that cap. That's how you build your best lineup.
Well, we only got 5 games tonight.
Yep.
And almost every big stud in fantasy is in tonight.
Yeah, that's true. That is a little strange, isn't there? There's, 5 or 6 players over $20,000 salary
Yeah, we've got
cap?
Durant, we've got Love, we've got LeBron, we've got Aldridge, and we've got Anthony Davis. And it's really tough.
Well, don't forget Run DMC. How dare you? DeMarcus Cousins has been on fire.
Oh, yes, he's on there as well at
he's
20.
The lowest, yep.
Yeah. So all of these guys have the potential for huge nights, and it's always going to be difficult in this type of situation to figure out which one you're going to put in. But in my opinion, you've got to get at least one in.
At least? What do you mean at least one? I tried to get 2 in tonight.
I got 2 in tonight, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. But I started low, as I usually do, looking for the value plays. The guys that I was going to go to that were once I lock these guys in, I know they're going to be in my lineup. The lowest guys, the biggest values.
So you're saying once you find the guys that are value, they're not the guys that if you have like 2,000 at the end, you're not swapping them out. If you know that they're your value play of the day, you absolutely have to keep them in your lineup.
Right. In that situation, I'm probably going to try to improve my best players at that point.
That's what I thought.
So I started out with Brian Roberts, who I thought was a shoo-in to put in, starting a point guard. With Drew Holiday out, I thought I had to have him in.
Well, don't forget Tyreek Evans also he's coming back from injury. He's still not back
coming
to
off
his normal
He's coming
minutes.
off the bench, but Roberts is still sharing minutes with him on the court at both at once, some point in time. And I've also got Phil Pressey in.
Oh,
you might criticize this for me.
Well, I mean, Rondo is still playing 20 minutes a game. They've said Stevens is like, we're not going to play him a crazy amount until he's ready. So
That's
that makes
true.
sense.
But Jared Bayless out tonight.
Oh, is he really? I didn't see
Jared
that.
Bayless out. You got a 9-point spread. So you got Phil Pressey, a good chance to see a good chunk of garbage minutes, and the fact that he's at 34.86, that's the bottom of the barrel on Star Fantasy League.
I would say for a guy that actually plays minutes, if you can get around 3,000, that's the minimum. 3,000 is the minimum. If you can get a little over it, that is more than perfect.
So I said I want to get a couple of big guys in. I went with Kevin Durant.
Well, of course, after his 54-point
I had to.
last week.
He is absolutely dominating with Russell Westbrook out. He is getting the rebounds. He's getting the assists. He's getting the blocks. And obviously getting the points as usual.
I think there's not a stat he doesn't fill, which is just incredible for a player like that.
I think he'll have a huge game, and I know I spoke to this last night, but when you look at a matchup like Portland-OKC, this is a game where LaMarcus Aldridge and Kevin Durant are sure to show up. They both want to attack each other. They both want to dominate the West. This is a huge game tonight, and I'm excited to watch the second half, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. We're going to be done with this, and we'll actually get to watch it. That's the best part about recapping this. Another great part of recapping that we don't really get to talk about too much is we get to watch. Since there is late swap on StarFantasyLeagues.com, we can watch these games to see if there's updates, and we're going to let the listeners know. If somebody's out, like we're monitoring this Utah game, Gordon Hayward might be in, Derek Favors might be out, but if there's an update, we will definitely let you guys know to get your lineups.
Late swap meaning that you could change a player out of your roster at the last minute before the game starts.
That's exactly true. Yeah,
and I think that's only fair.
Oh, of
you know
course
what I mean?
it's fair.
If you're looking at the games, you're looking at a game like basketball. The NBA, you got guys that can be scratched late all the time. It happens all the time. Sometimes they come out of nowhere.
You mean Dwayne Wade every day the past week?
Yeah.
I think it's important to have a feature like that.
It is. It's very important. I've been avoiding Dwayne Wade just because of that. And
we're talking late swaps here on the Star Fantasy League show. If you guys are interested in learning more about late swaps, obviously check out StarFantasyLeagues.com. Also, you can tweet us at SFL Show. Let us know how you'd like the new feature. If you're not understanding it, we'd be more than happy to help you understand it a little bit more. It's a great feature, and certainly check it out. If you have some players that you find out aren't going to play, it's a huge tool for you. All right, Zach, break down your team a little bit more.
All right, let me give you my last big value play here. After this, I got.
You just said you got like a lot of great value. You got more value.
I've got value.
Team?
I've got value all over the place.
This guy coming out the wazoo.
And you know what I try to look at when I'm looking at all these different salaries? I say, is this the most that this guy can get? Is this his max? Is he maxed out for a salary? Now, on a night like this, where you can fit in some of the big guys, Kevin Durant, obviously at $23,000, you're looking at him. Yeah,
he's not even maxed out at that salary. He's a steal at any salary he is.
It's kind of true, especially when you have these other players that are grouped in. You got 5 guys from 21,000 up to him at 23,000.
Yep.
So he's the top play of the night. If you can get him in, you get him in. I've got Jason Thompson in tonight at 82.71, which I think is an absolute steal. He's been getting 30 minutes per game. He's got a great matchup against New Orleans, who's 21 against his position. Or is it 26?
It is 26.
26 against his position.
Yeah, New Orleans defends the 26th.
I think he could go over 25 fantasy points tonight easily.
At $8,000, if you can
that
get
exceeds
25,
his value.
that's
it's perfect.
Huge for that.
So the rest of my lineup filling out, I've got Pekovic, who has just as good a matchup tonight as
That's
any.
one weird-looking dude, by the way.
That is very. He looks like
He's a beast.
He looks like a Bond.
He is a
villain.
beast. He does look like a Bond villain. That's a great one.
And
I can't take
he's
credit
not
for
that
that.
tall. He's an absolute animal.
He's
though.
what, like six? Is he 6'10"? Like
I think
6'9"?
yeah, I think he's in between 6'9".
He's
6'10".
just
Yeah, that's not very tall.
He looks like a battering ram, to be honest. Like him playing against Kevin Love, he makes him look like a small guy, and Kevin Love is not really a small guy.
Every time he scores, Pekovic.
Does he say that?
I
or
think
is the
that's
announcer
what he says.
Kind of like
And if
LaShawn McCoy when he jukes people.
Yeah, he just yells out LaShawn McCoy.
And when I have him on my team, that's what I say, of course.
That's a little strange. That you do you yell? For
I've got
players?
names for everybody.
Oh, okay.
I believe that.
I was gonna say we
Having
don't wanna
watched
hear
some
it.
sports with Zach, I
I
definitely
have like
believe
10
that.
different nicknames for Seth.
Yeah, that is very true. Not any as good as the Deucey Moose though. None. Of course.
Okay, and so my other big boy besides Durant is DeMarcus Cousins. Also,
So you did get two guys over 20,000.
I did. Also, a very favorable matchup, and my Phil Pressey pick allowed me to do this. And you just watch; he's going to have a game.
Actually, I don't know much about basketball, admittedly, right? But I like the Phil Pressey pick because they're playing Miami. Miami is probably going to blow out Boston. Boston is just hobbled. Boston does not look good right now. I would say, why would you push Rondo in a game like
Oh, they're
this?
not. They try to claim there's no rivalry between Miami and Boston, but they don't like each
And I think it was 29-15 at the end of the first quarter.
It certainly
already.
was, yeah. Pressey's got a couple points already. I think just a couple, though.
Pressey's going to be fine because he will play the entire fourth quarter.
Who knows? They might go to some guy they just picked up. Who did they just pick up? Chris Johnson from the D League. They might end up playing him. All right. So
He played football.
Is that Rhino? No.
No, that doesn't round me out.
We have more.
I've got my last two players, which I think these are guys that you would see normally in the low 12,000 range. Trey Burke is at 11-6 tonight. Favorable matchup, as well as Reggie Jackson. Both high-scoring games. A lot of potential there. Reggie Jackson a little more inconsistent at times.
Well, not to mention Damian Lillard can't guard to save his life.
No,
They might
Lillard
both
can't
go
guard.
off tonight.
Yeah, and Reggie Jackson can't really guard that well either.
They should just be going up. That's going to be a really high-paced game.
Yeah, well, Damian Lillard is a beast offensively. He's been getting attacked on defense every game. So
Yeah, this is true. So who's the last one?
Reggie Jackson.
Oh, Reggie Jackson. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm okay.
And he's
with that.
he's at 10,900. And I think
That's a steal.
Yeah, that's a
And
steal.
he's just coming back.
25, 23, 24. He meets value right there.
Yeah, he's pretty low.
Let me ask you a question. Are there any people kind of like Richard Sherman on the Utah Jazz that just have some personality like that?
On the Jazz?
Did you really
Yeah.
just have to drop Richard Sherman? Was that literally the point of it?
Well,
so
yeah.
we have a conversation about him.
I like guys like that. I like villains like that. No, I just want to know.
I am so glad that we just heard the music in our headphones. So we don't
Perfect time for
yeah,
break.
we don't have to
Perfect
listen to
time.
Seth talk about Richard
on.
Sherman for absolutely no reason. When we
Richard
come back
Sherman.
after the break, we're actually going to talk NFL and accountability for our picks before the season. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Nick Monsanto Show here on the Sports Byline USA Network. Contact the StarFantasyLeagues.com guys via Twitter at SFL Show. Warning, warning. It's time for the SFL Late Swap Alert.
Do you remember how we were talking, 2 minutes ago about this nice feature we have called the Late Swap?
It may be time to utilize it right
Oh,
now.
it might be, because we mentioned that Derek Favors and Gordon Hayward might be game-time decisions. Turns out Derek Favors is officially ruled out tonight. If you guys have him in your fantasy lineups on StarFantasyLeagues.com, it is time to get Enes Kanter in your lineup. He's going to be starting tonight. It's definitely time to throw him in there.
Yeah, do yourself a favor and get yourself on StarFantasyLeagues.com.
Wow, that was really bad. So that's really good at this.
That's what I'm here for.
No.
Another one of Seth's unique plugs.
All right, yeah, that's very true. All right, yeah, yes.
Show you a unique plug.
Yesterday we did our thing where it's called the Fantasy Accountability, where we talked about our picks before the season and how they actually stacked up now, because most fantasy experts, let's be honest, they make their picks at the beginning of the season and you never hear it about again, either if they're right or wrong. So what we're doing is we're going back before the season when we had our podcast. We made picks for every single team. What we did is we named the can't miss, can't wait to drop, and no one saw them coming from each and every NFL team. We're gonna review, good or bad, what happened during those conversations, and let's see how we did. Does that sound good to you guys?
Sounds like a lot of fun, Donald. I'm ready.
Wow, Seth is just excited to be talking for once on
He
the
looks
show.
like a giddy schoolboy right
This
now.
is true. Zach, I have this out of order, but we're going to start with your Buffalo Bills because, man, did we miss hard on this. We all said Mr. C.J. Spiller would be the can't miss of the season. I believe the quote was, Zach said C.J. Spiller would be a top 3 running back in the league. He said he'd be off the chain and a clone of Chris Johnson during his 2,000-yard season.
Well, you said clone of Chris Johnson this year. Well, actually, Chris Johnson had a pretty good year.
He had a pretty good year. Zach, you want to account for any of those? We said good and bad.
You know, I can't always account for injuries, fellas. I know so much. But you don't always know when the injury bug's going to hit.
No. You don't get off of an injury.
Don't get to wriggle out
Spiller.
of one of the worst top 3 picks in fantasy history. He was an abomination.
No, Christine Michael.
It may have been the homer in me that was picking C.J. Spiller, but I wasn't alone.
No, I mean,
I also picked C.J. Spiller.
There were a lot of other people. And you know what? I got yelled at by so many people with their fantasy teams that had C.J. Spiller on them, even though I didn't even give them the advice. They were just pissed because I'm a Bills fan.
I picked C.J. Spiller as early as I could. My first round pick in a lot of drafts was C.J. Spiller. I thought he was going to have a massive year, especially because Buffalo runs the ball. It's just what they do. And if he didn't have such a bad beginning of the season, maybe he would have. I have no idea. It was just not a good season.
Where do you think he's going to fall next year?
Probably on the ground in the first game.
I think he'll be a third round pick.
Hold on, guys. Can we just
third round?
Seth made a good joke. Just let's let him
I don't pay attention to him.
He actually made a funny joke for once. I thought it was going to be a Kevin Cobb joke falling on your face the first game. It's a Kevin Cobb joke. Man, how do you feel? You had Kevin Cobb and C.J. Spiller this year, Zach. How's that feel?
I couldn't have been more pleased when Kevin Cobb fell on that mat.
That was about a mile.
More Thad Lewis.
That was a mile from my house. That's what happened.
All right, yeah. There's too many people talking about the fact that Thad Lewis is going to be the guy.
No,
in
stop it.
It's not going to happen.
We're not going to talk about it. Let's move on.
He looked great.
The can't wait to drops we talked about. I'd like to pan you guys again. I believe, Zach, you said the can't wait to drop along with Footer. Said Fred Jackson. He can't wait to drop, even though I mentioned that he was a 14th rounder in most drafts.
This is almost just looking at my C.J. Spiller pick. If you look at my C.J. Spiller pick, why would I think Fred Jackson would have a good year?
But this was okay.
Why wouldn't he have a good year? He has a good year every year. He's Fred Jackson.
He's also
until
older.
He hurts his knee.
He's older. He was coming off an injury.
Yeah, but his average draft position was 127th. He was going as like a 4th back.
That's because C.J. Spiller was supposed to have a massive year, but guess what? He didn't.
I'd like to pat myself on the back. I did say Stevie Johnson would be a can't wait to drop.
I'm with you on that.
Terrible.
None of you guys had a can't miss for Fred Jackson, so I don't know why I'm getting so criticized.
No one saw him coming was my Fred Jackson. I did say that. You guys panned me during the time. I said he'd be great as one of your last round picks. I had him in most leagues. He started for me a couple times this season. I'm okay with it. That happened. You guys can.
I don't even like talking about the Bills. I'm just upset right now.
Also. I would be upset if I was a Bills fan year round. Yeah, shots fired. Whatever. It's all about it.
Wow, you're just trying to get him
going,
aren't
you? You have the spokesman of Uggs as your quarterback.
That is true. We're going to get to. I know we talked about New England the other day.
The wound is fresh.
For the listeners that didn't hear about New England, we're going to talk about them last, since I know some of you probably heard this from yesterday. Let's move on to the Miami Dolphins, a team that we kind of missed on all around because they were very consistent, but not consistently good.
They were pretending in the beginning of the season.
I'm looking at these picks right now, and I'm damaged right now.
Okay, can't miss, Zach. You decided to say Lamar Miller. I don't think there was a can't miss.
Everybody was high on Lamar Miller.
No, that's not true. I was high on Brian Hartline from the year before, as where he was getting drafted.
You were high on Brian Hartline all year.
Excuse me. He had another 1,000.
You have a man crush.
He had another 1,000-yard season. Why are we complaining? He had solid. He was a Kendall Wright-esque player.
There's no comparison.
Okay,
come on, John.
He was a little less per game than he was, except he didn't have any touchdowns. I think he had like 1 or 2 this season. He was an
Kendall
okay
Wright didn't
player.
either, to be fair.
That is also true.
Kendall Wright had a few.
He had a couple. Brian Hartline also had a couple.
This is. I mean, it just makes no sense. I was right on the can't wait to drop, though. I'll be honest. I said Mike Wallace because he was getting drafted as a number 1 receiver. Coming from Pittsburgh, I knew that he's just a whiny baby. The second he didn't get the ball, guess what? He did. He complained. I said that on the show.
Then he got the ball, and then he had a huge game, and then he did nothing else for the rest of the season.
He had 2 big games the entire
Once he
season.
complained, he got the ball, and he actually had a great game. But after that, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, that is true. Go ahead,
Daniel Thomas?
Yeah, Daniel Thomas is true. You guys did mention Daniel Thomas is the can't wait to drop.
And he got hurt.
At some point. That is true. I don't really want to talk about the no one saw him coming because it's an incomplete.
Honestly, this was just a miserable fantasy team all around.
Yeah.
Who cares about the only people that care about Miami are the rejects from Long Island who can't root for the Jets or Giants.
Wow. You are just firing on all cylinders.
And one of my many boyhood heroes, Dan the Man.
Well, yeah, fair. Dan Marino. Everybody liked the Dolphins when Dan Marino was around.
We got unlucky with Dustin Keller because we all agreed that he was going to be big for this team if he got on the field. Turns out he tore his ACL preseason? Was that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
That's unfortunate. We're gonna do a to be continued on this pick because I think next season, in the flow of offense, he'll actually be really good on this team.
Dustin Keller?
Yeah. Charles Clay was huge on this team.
I loved Dustin Keller on the Jets. He was pretty much the only relevant player last year.
Again, we're talking our accountability picks on the Star Fantasy League show. Don't forget to go to starfantasyleagues.com to play daily fantasy sports for money. Tweet us at SFL Show. We'd love to hear your comments about our terrible picks that we make.
Mostly John's terrible picks.
Oh, stop that, Seth. You were bad. Let's move on to somewhere that everyone did bad, but again, it was the team. It wasn't us. The New York Football Jets. Come on. I will preface this by saying, when we went into this, we all had a good laugh. There was absolutely no reason that anybody should pick anybody fantasy-wise from this team, but we had to pick somebody from every team for can't miss. So go ahead, Zach. Who was your can't miss?
My can't miss was Chris Ivory.
Yep. Yes, it was.
I'm with you on that. Heck, I drafted Chris Ivory most of my
games.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Chris Ivory was pretty solid for a lot of the season.
Once Rex Ryan finally decided that Bilal Powell wasn't going to be didn't you like Bilal Powell, Seth?
I did for a couple of games, and he was good for a couple of games.
Yeah, he was good statistically for a couple of games, but he never had any burst. You thought he had burst.
Yeah, he looked good when he was playing. He did.
Hold up.
Seth made his classic running with a purpose comment.
Rex Ryan said that he was the best runner he'd ever seen in a post-game conference.
Rex Ryan is very excitable.
Bilal, he was actually leading the league after 4 weeks in rushing. Can you believe that, Bilal Powell?
You know who I couldn't? You know who I couldn't miss on the Jets? David Nelson's girlfriend.
Wow, I don't know who you're talking about. You just drooled. Seth just drooled on the microphone. What?
She's a Cowboys cheerleader.
We're gonna move on, guys. This is gonna get us kicked off the air. Can't wait to drop. We all said Mark Sanchez. I somehow referenced Chris Winkie during the show. I don't know how Chris Winkie got on the. I had to talk about it because I don't even know where it came from.
You gave a shout out.
I don't know why. I was listening back
was
to
that
it.
like along the lines of Seth's getting a shout out?
No, I said that Mark Sanchez better save his money because he's going to be out of the NFL. And I said Chris Winkie probably saved his money because he was 30 when he got to the NFL.
In the next segment, we'll talk about Rick Mirer.
You know who's relevant right now is Danny Cannell. Isn't Danny Cannell doing some analysis stuff?
I think he's on ESPN.
I liked him when he was in Florida. Whatever happened to his career? In the NFL.
Man. I don't even.
Now he's in the booth. But
a lot of college quarterbacks don't translate well to the NFL.
Well, what's happening with Tebow now?
Oh, no, we're done.
I mean, he's not going to get in the booth, is he?
He's on the SEC network. He just got signed.
Oh, how about
true?
That?
All right,
but he still has dreams.
Now that you mentioned it, Seth, let's go back. I know we talked about this yesterday, but let's pretend in a magical world that conversation never happened.
Magical land.
Yeah. Who is your can't miss this season before the season for the your New England Patriots?
I don't even remember.
How do you not remember? You said Tommy Terrific. Are you kidding me? Of course you said Tom Terrific.
Tom Terrific?
Tom, really? You don't even know Tom Terrific?
Who's Tom Terrific, John?
That's just trying to screw with us now. That's just not fair.
Yeah, man. I mean, come on. Of course you're going to.
You have that collage on your door in your office.
I took that down after they lost. How can you bet against Tom Brady? Tom Brady is the golden boy.
Oh, my God.
The top of the top.
He didn't look very golden sitting there on the sidelines. He looked pretty pale and miserable.
Yeah, with his face palm.
Why are you guys rubbing this in?
Because you mentioned Richard Sherman when there's a note on the board right now that says do not mention Richard Sherman during the Star Fantasy League show.
I like villains. I think personality in sports is fantastic. I mean, I'm sure plenty of people would agree with me.
I would appreciate it if ESPN could do one of those tallies for who likes Brady versus Manning.
Oh, come on. They already did that.
It would probably be like 80-20.
Everybody likes Peyton Manning. I like Peyton Manning.
Yeah, because he's the man.
Hold on. I believe that... Can you repeat that, Seth?
I like Peyton Manning.
Wow.
How could you not like Peyton Manning?
I want to get that as a drop to lead every single show. I like Peyton Manning.
Well, they actually... I think ESPN had some sort of a collage or infograph or whatever that showed, who do you like, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning? And the entire country, except for the New England area, was Peyton Manning.
Well, what a
Peyton
surprise.
Manning is just an all-American man.
Did you just say it was a collage? Did they make it at Michael's? Did it have paper mache on it? Was that what happened?
Come on.
What do you mean, come on? You just said it. All right, quickly, let's talk about...
They're going to have Chuck Norris lines about Peyton Manning one day.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the
Peyton Manning will...
Let's talk about the no one saw coming for New England really quick, because we all had something ridiculous, and none of them really panned out. I said Tebow. Zach said Aaron Dropson. And Seth, you went with Cam Braille-Tompkins. That was not so good. And it's a good point to end on, because we all missed horribly when it comes to that. Coming up later, we will talk about tomorrow's NBA fantasy. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
The Star Fantasy League show is now part of the Nick Monsanto Show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now.
We are back on the Star Fantasy League show, and during the break, our producer decided to tell us that we needed to talk more Richard Sherman. What he actually said is that that's the reason he doesn't watch football anymore. We're going to talk about this
I think that's
now.
Ridiculous, by the way.
I completely agree. You mentioned it, Seth, yesterday, something about, what, we need villains, you need heels. It's true.
Come on. You put all these grown men, these grown athletes who spend days in the gym, and there are gladiators. You put them in this building. You have millions of people watching them. You have a game. If they win, they get millions of dollars in bonuses. And he makes a game-winning play with no time left to send his team to the biggest stage in sports. You're telling me you're not going to have adrenaline pumping through you? You're not going to be you're not going to – I wouldn't be able to compose myself for an
I don't think you can compose yourself right now. You're so worked up. You were just like, you're on it.
I get it. I mean, I understand why Richard Sherman did what he did, and I'd love to see that. He is jacked up. And, yeah, he's all about his team right there. He said, the Legion of Boom, look at what we did. And he gave an interview after and said, I couldn't have done it, without the rest of my team. He composed himself enough for that. But he's not going to apologize for what he did.
He did apologize, actually. He did come out and apologize.
He didn't apologize for saying the things he said. He apologized for basically just not being composed on the air.
No, he said he was a little out of control.
Yeah, but
because he got sat down by Pete Carroll and got talked to about it.
Yeah, I was saying, do you think he meant it? I don't think he meant it whatsoever.
No, I don't think he meant it, and I don't think he should have to mean it.
Yeah, I disagree with having to make a player apologize, especially if they don't mean it. Like, come on, you got to have players go out there and be a personality.
He said he doesn't like Michael Crabtree. He said that something happened between them during the summer in Arizona. And you know what? You don't have to like everybody that you play against. I don't like everybody. No, if I beat out that one person that I didn't like in a huge situation on a national stage, and everybody saw me just be the man, yeah, I'm getting out there, and I'm saying it. I'm all over it. Richard Sherman, I support you.
Seth is in dreamland right now. You were just like, I think you think you're Richard Sherman right now. You're getting all worked up. You're ready to start screaming at Aaron Andrews.
I think we need more people like him. I mean, personality like him is what drives rivalry.
I think people just got surprised. I think that's what happened. I don't think this would be that big of a deal if it wasn't so. I mean, you're at the end of the game. This is usually a situation where you go to the winners and you talk to them, and they say, oh, it was a great matchup. We're so excited to move on. So proud of the team, blah, blah, blah. Just nobody saw this coming.
Hold on. In comparison to that, let's talk about something that's a little bit different, but it got the same kind of media scrutiny. The Jameis Winston thing, where he just went absolutely nuts and was like freaking out after the game and yelling, praise God, and all this other stuff. Which one do you think got the more negative attention just for absolutely
definitely
no reason?
Took some heat off Jameis Winston, I'll tell you
That's
that.
what I'm saying. Jameis Winston in that interview was like, people were like, whoa, dude, like, what are you doing, buddy?
This is going to have a longer lasting effect. This is going to last for a long time, and I just don't think it's necessary. I mean, would I have done it? No. Would it, but it sounded very similar to something Ray Lewis would say.
I think this is a ridiculous conversation. We're watching this game to be entertained, right? Are you telling me you wouldn't rather see an interview like that? You'd rather see, oh, yeah, we came out. We were playing well on both sides of the ball. My team played great. It was a great game. A lot of respect for the other team. And, now it's time to go and focus on the Super Bowl.
First of all, there's no denying that it's great TV. We all know it's great TV.
What's the problem?
The only thing missing from your thing was the Andrew Luck voice. Gonna talk like this, guys. That makes all his interviews are amazing just because of his voice. That's the only thing I have to say about that. Let's actually switch gears from NFL to another game that was a little under the radar only because of the ridiculous Richard Sherman thing. How about that hit that Belichick's complaining on that Wes Welker put on Aqib Talib and put him out? He basically put him down.
I've been just waiting for Bill Belichick to come out and say so. It's so frustrating to watch those press conferences that are so monotonous and annoying.
He hates them more than we do.
So you're saying you'd rather see him have a reaction like Richard Sherman?
No, I would rather have him say something of actual character.
Yeah, be honest. Yeah, he goes in there as a robot. He puts his hands in his little hoodie and goes, well, next question.
And there's a difference between that because, there's like this low talking, whereas Greg Popovich just comes out and kind of says it like it is and shoves it in your face. I enjoy that.
Yeah, that brings up a really interesting point. Should coaches be approached during games or after games, like when they have the heat of the moment, especially after a big loss or a big win? Why are they going immediately up to them trying to get like a good reaction?
Emotion. Pure human emotion, raw emotion. This is why we watched the game in the first place.
Okay, so
that's what we saw in the post-game interview with the Seahawks.
After the game is fine, but what about these like Greg Popovich getting interviewed during the third quarter? He doesn't want to talk about his game strategy because the other team could be watching on their monitor going, oh, he just said what he's going to do in the third quarter.
That's different.
If you want to relate this is like when Seth doesn't have any toilet paper in the bathroom. Pure raw emotion. He just comes out firing.
Raw something.
Oh my. We just got a little bit off track. We are talking about villains, though, so let's bring that to a broader spectrum. In sports, who do you think are a lot of the other villains that are kind of in that same pantheon as Richard Sherman is right now?
Well, Ray Lewis comes to mind pretty quickly.
But he's no longer. He's on, Countdown, and he's being a normal guy, or he's attempting to be a normal guy.
It doesn't have to be a villain. It could just be somebody with some personality, you know?
Or somebody who sparks some controversy, which is what's going on all over the airwaves right now, talking about this thing, about what this guy said after a game. I don't really care. I'm excited for the Super Bowl. I'm not really worried about it. But here we are talking about it.
I'm excited to see Peyton Manning go after Richard Sherman because you know he's going to. He's not going to throw to Demarius Thomas.
Hold on. You really think that Peyton Manning is going to play this up because he was allowed about these?
No, I don't think Peyton Manning's going to play it up.
They don't throw at the cornerback, Seth. That's why there's receivers. So they don't just go after the cornerbacks. They can't go after them with the ball.
Peyton Manning's going to make the best. He's going to make the best throw at the best time because he's the best quarterback in football. He's not going to go, oh, it's Richard Sherman on Julius Thomas. I'm going to throw at him.
I just think there's a really good chance that Richard Sherman gets embarrassed, and that's going to be even better. You don't agree with me?
I'm just going to sit here and stare at you in air.
So you enjoyed the rise, and now even better is going to be the fall. Is pretty much what you're saying.
Are you kidding?
I agree with that. From a TV standpoint, if he comes out all week, because remember, there's a week in between of media. It's just going to be talk and talk. And guess what? We have a radio show, so we have to talk about
And now it's even
like
more exciting.
I will say I can't wait for Radio Day. There's going to be some fireworks.
It's going to be like 50,000 people standing around Richard Sherman and the rest of them around Peyton Manning, and that's all it will be. I can guarantee that's exactly what's
somebody
going to
on the Seahawks needs to talk to the media. Marshawn Lynch certainly doesn't. He won his appeal, though. He got fined by the NFL $50,000 for not talking to the media during games, and he appealed it, and he won.
That's what I don't understand. Like, if you don't want to talk to the media, just don't talk to. Like, you don't have to.
Well, come on. We watch this as fans. I want to hear from the players. And you know what I'm really looking forward to is that Richard Sherman and Michael Crabtree were both mic'd up during the game. This is supposed to come out tomorrow. The audio from that game. I cannot wait to hear that.
Is it going to be released? Is the question.
I can't wait to hear it. Yeah, it's definitely going to be released.
It's going to be like one of those FBI documents where it's just like it's all a black line because you can't print any of it. It's just be like, well, we're not airing that or that.
I'm sure it's going to be bad.
You know what I think about it? I think we got a taste of what goes on the field between guys like that battling it out in a division rivalry. That's what. And he brought some of what the back and forth, I'm sure, was going on the field over to Aaron Andrews.
Yeah, hold on. What about Aqib Talib earlier in the year? Who was he? He was going one-on-one with the guy and kept like ripping his helmet off and like pushing him in the chest.
Well, Aqib Talib is just another player that the Patriots took in with character issues and tried to turn around, who still shows through that he's,
This happens a lot. You have top guys on one team facing a top guy on another team, and there's rivalries. I mean, all these players are professional athletes. They all have egos. They're all at the top level of their position in the sport. So, yeah, I mean, who's gonna stay a cornerback and say, oh, that guy can clearly beat me. He's much better than I am. No, you're going to stay there and say, there's no way this guy's getting past me. A receiver like Michael Crabtree. And you know what? I think Richard Sherman made a great point. Michael Crabtree had Josh Gordon only took 14 games to get double the production that Michael Crabtree did. You want to put Richard Sherman across the field from Josh Gordon? Maybe that's one thing. But when you put Michael Crabtree against Richard Sherman, who is undisputed, I think
Michael Crabtree was out all year.
Yeah, he played like 4 games.
That's not
talking about double the production.
The point is that Richard Sherman is a good cornerback in the best defense in the NFL.
Right, well,
and Michael Crabtree is a medium-level receiver in the NFL.
If that's not the point, then that was still one of the worst points that I've ever heard.
I like the fact that
the man had no time to put up any stats. I don't even know what you're talking about.
But if he did have time, he's still not going to put up anywhere close to that kind of production. So I would say he is a second-tier receiver.
Well, you have a team that loves to run, that is frequently leading in games, versus a team that is constantly down and picking up garbage points.
We're talking Richard Sherman on the Star Fantasy League show. Even though we promised we wouldn't talk more about this, you guys don't forget to go to starfantasyleagues.com to play in NBA and NHL daily fantasy because NFL is gone, yet we're still talking about it for some crazy reason.
Yeah, Jason Campbell, who loves to throw bombs, that's what he does. That's what he did to Santana Moss in Washington.
Yeah, but then he had Brian Hoyer and Brandon Wheaton before that.
I love when you two just go off, and I can't reel you in ever again.
You know what?
It happens.
Let me liken.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Let me liken Richard Sherman to somebody in hockey, and that's Sean Avery. More personality like that. I love Sean Avery.
Where's Sean Avery now?
He's off the ice. He's in fashion.
Wow, that's a great segue into absolutely nothing, Seth. Thank you.
It's true. Sean Avery's in fashion now.
Before we completely run off the rails here, Zach, I wanted to talk in the last segment about tomorrow's NBA game. Since we aren't on the air tomorrow, I want to give a little bit of a preview because we have a couple minutes left in the show. There is a big slate of games tomorrow. So do you have any preliminary ideas of the games you want to target, something that stands out to you, things you want to, like, pick and choose? Because I know we're not going over a full game-by-game recap, but just things that stand out to you.
Yeah, how about if you want to go for a guy on the higher tier, out of everybody that's on the high tier tomorrow, Carmelo Anthony against Philadelphia.
Philadelphia's not even a team. I don't even think they're a D-League.
Great matchup with injuries to Stoudemire, injuries to Kenyon Martin. He's been absolutely going off on the boards. Obviously, the scoring's going to be there. Philly doesn't rebound that well. Philly doesn't really do anything well defensively. So, yeah, I really like Carmelo Anthony tomorrow if you're looking for the top pick.
How do you feel about Paul Millsap? I've been so high on Paul Millsap recently. He's playing Orlando tomorrow. They're coming off a back-to-back. He's basically going to be going up one-on-one with Big Baby Davis.
And his prices come back down a little bit.
Yeah, he's around, 14,000, I believe?
Yeah, he's been dominating since Horford went down.
He's their number one is what he is. And he's, especially against a team like Orlando, you're probably going to see a little bit of high-scoring affair.
He's going to put up at least 30 on a given night, pretty much guaranteed. He's got a favorable matchup.
And that's 30 fantasy points, not 30 points. We don't expect him to go insane.
And that's pretty much his floor. Is 30.
That's
say
very
tomorrow.
true. Which is great because I mean if you want to plug in a guy around that 15,000 mark, you don't want to go for a kind of a flyer. He's not a flyer. He's been between that 25 and 50 almost every single game since Horford went down. I think he had one or two bad games, but they were kind of anomalies.
And I would fade Kevin Durant tomorrow, although I liked him in the matchup tonight. I don't like him in the matchup against San Antonio. I don't like him on a back-to-back. It's just something where you don't want to take the price on a back-to-back, especially if this game gets close tonight. They're going to limit his minutes just a touch tomorrow.
And don't
Scott
forget,
Brooks.
when you are flying from Portland, it's in Portland tonight, isn't it, or is it in Oklahoma City?
I believe
it's in Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City.
Okay.
Yes.
So I was going to say, if you're flying from Portland. But, I mean, you're going across time zones usually when that happens. So, I mean, you have to keep into account that as well if you're going from West Coast to Central.
This is going to be a grueling game tonight. Tomorrow's going to be a grueling game. You know that he can get up for it, but it's not a favorable matchup for him. And to pay top dollar for a guy that's going to be the highest price of the night, I just don't think it's worth it.
Let's talk about another game, but there's definitely going to be some potential to talk about. How about that Sacramento-Houston game? I see a lot of green on our board that we're talking about because there's such a terrible defensive team. These two teams don't like to play defense at all. They're ranked basically in the bottom quarter of the league in almost against every position. So this is a game you have to look at, right?
There's a lot to look at here. I think pretty much everybody is worth looking at on Sacramento, except maybe Isaiah Thomas in this situation. He's got a pretty big price tag, and now that Patrick Beverley is back in the lineup, I don't think he can. That is what he gets. He can play defense a lot better than Jeremy Lin, and that's the reason that he earns those minutes on that side of the ball.
Yeah, we got a big slate of games on StarFantasyLeagues.com for NBA tomorrow as well as NHL. And coming up after the break, we're definitely going to break down everything we got going on the site, and we're excited to talk about it. Once football's gone, we're a little sad, so a little somber. You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on the Sports Byline USA Network.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at StarFantasyLeagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League show with Jonathan, Zach, and Seth.
That will wrap up yet another stunning edition of the Star Fantasy League show.
So turn your radio off.
I don't think that's how radio works, Seth. If
no?
you hear him say, yeah, I don't think that's how this works. I'm not really sure.
But there's nothing else worth listening to.
That's not true. I believe we have a bunch of wonderful offers at StarFantasyLeagues.com. How are you going to cut them off without giving them the value that you were about to talk about?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We do have some things to talk about.
And see you later.
We actually have some awesome stuff going on at StarFantasyLeagues.com, and we're welcoming your tweets. If you want to tweet at us at SFL Show, we're going to give you a free credit on the site.
Don't forget, at SFL Show. We're going to say it 100 times.
SFL Show. If you tweet at us, we'll give you a free credit on the site, no strings attached. Come and compete in a real money game. It's going to be a lot of fun for you to try out. You might be able to win some cash, too.
Yeah, we got free rolls every day, Tuesday and Thursday. NBA, we got a $50 free roll. Rest of the days for NBA, we got $10. And we also have a $5 NHL free roll every day of the week.
And I think our players are going to be allowed to create their own games soon.
Wait, really?
Custom games.
Wow. I
So
believe
play
games,
your friends.
Private games. Anytime you want to create a league, all different types of payouts, all different stuff to do. This is
awesome.
This is exciting times at Star Fantasy.
And we got late swaps, man. There's a different. I feel like there's a new feature like every week on Star Fantasy League.
Well, it's not like we're not working all day.
Well, I mean, we're sitting here doing
Football
a show.
season's over. Now we have time to work.
Well, I don't know about you. I don't work anytime.
Well, that's just you, John.
I know. I just sit in my office and pretend to smash on my keyboard, and you guys are like, "Wow, you're doing a really good job on the radio." Yeah,
What are you talking about? You never get complimented.
That's wow. You remember how there was a somber mood before the last break? If you're listening to this is the reason I have a somber time. Is because Seth and Zach absolutely love to rag on me.
It's my favorite.
I don't approve.
Why? I rag
so
on
much
Seth
fun.
a little bit, too, to be fair,
That is true.
which is really fun.
Ugh.
Yeah, for Zach.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sensitive.
I
These
know.
words hurt.
The problem is with NFL being gone and what we're going through right now, I feel like America's going through all this right now. The American Force Network. You guys, what happened to football? Well, seriously, I don't know.
Seriously, what happened?
Really, this is how I'm going to preface what we're going through right now. If you guys, for the last time this season, if you guys don't have John Kitna in your lineups, we'll help you make a better lineup next time. Have a good night.
Kitna.
Kitna.